What is up? How we doing? I'm really excited about today's video. So excited. In fact, let's move the let's get the backpack out of the shot. That doesn't need to be there. Okay. So this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I have a weird relationship with this asking questions thing, right? Because I am double activated savior TE. I'm savior play, but also play involves my last function, which is SE. So I was, listening to today's video today and Shannon's video today about like TE asking questions, how to ask, why the video itself that they produced went into great detail about sort of like the meta stuff around asking a question, right? Like, when is a question appropriate to ask? What should you look for? Is this, whatever, right? But it didn't really talk about how to ask a great question, right? And their bent was much more about like, basically what they're saying is the more you dial it back and put pressure on yourself, which again, I think is coming certainly from Shannon's Demon FI, Feminine FI. And I think also very specifically with Cody, because they have typed him as, double masculine ENTJ, also with the Demon Feminine NI, Demon Feminine FI, sorry, right? I can see how steering in that direction is likely to be very helpful and the right thing to do, et cetera, right? But what I want to talk about is how the hell do you ask a good question? And I'm going to get to the feminine sensory video with a closer look, but this one came out and I'm feeling inspired, so I want to do the thing. A little backstory with me with asking questions. I grew up in a pretty DE heavy household. So lots of questions back and forth, lots of ping back, lots of that energy. So I learned really quickly, like I got my reps in of just getting over the fear of asking questions, which again, I don't entirely buy, but like, whatever, let's play along, right? I learned the mechanics of asking a question very, very early, right? And I learned that like, if there is a thing that you need to know, again, this is possibly me being lead info animal and info dominant, but it's like there is a piece of information that other human has that I need. The fastest way to get that information is to ask them for it, right? And also you're going to, sorry, I'm just like kind of vibing what my hair is doing. Are we leaving the hat off for this? Oh my God, wait, hang on. This is very strange. I think I'm leaving the hat off for this one. I'm just like kind of digging this widow's peak act. I don't know what's happening. I'm having a lot of feelings right now. Okay, whatever, fucking hats off. We're talking, right, the fear of asking questions, whatever, learning how to ask questions, right? Like that person has a piece of information that I do not have. Let me ask a question. That's a really fast way to get that information. Okay. So as Shave mentioned in their video, again, I'm not going to give away the whole video because you should buy the class and watch it yourself. But basically what they were saying is if you default to that too much, especially when it's loaded with play energy rather than blast energy. That's a really critical distinction, right? If it's loaded with play energy, then there's no point to it. Then it's just, I had a question about this. What do you think about this? Well, what about that? Well, what about that? And you're like, oh my God, I turbo do not care, right? But when it comes from a blast place, right? Now you're starting, now you have already taken on the responsibility of narrowing in and you can be receptive to whatever it is that they say, right? So I'm just going to throw out a number of examples of instances where I asked a question in my life and it went really well, or it went really badly, or I was like, that was a dumb, I should not have, no, stop, right? Because there's a lot of nuance to it, but I do think that there are some big guiding principles you can follow. The first, I'm going to mess with this. Craig Kilborn. I think it's Craig Kilborn. Craig Ferguson. My God. Yeah. Okay. So he has a comedy special called "Does This Need to Be Said?" Okay, and that is part of a longer bit that goes. In my first marriage, I learned to ask myself before I say anything, does this need to be said? Okay. He said, in my second marriage, I learned to add to that, does this need to be said by me? And the third, he said, finally, my third marriage, I have learned, does this need to be said by me right now? And I think that you can apply that exact logic to asking great questions. Except instead of said, substitute ask, right? Does this question need to be asked, right? So in the, if it's a dumb instance of like, are those my eggs? Literally use your eyes. I promise you can answer that question by yourself, right? Yeah, and quite honestly, if you see three plates of eggs, two people are eating the eggs, one plate is not eaten, and you need eggs, I'm going to say just start eating the eggs, and if they're not your eggs, you at least made a reasonable inference, which is sort of like part 1A of this, right? So it's weighing like, it's not just does this need to be asked and is this an important thing to ask? It's like, if I don't ask this question, if I just assume something, how wrong am I likely to be, right? And look, sometimes you're wrong. There have been many a time in my life when I have asked a question and was wrong, didn't ask a question and was wrong, like whatever. There's serendipity involved in like life and communication, whatever. But in the case of the eggs, you're like, I feel like if I don't ask and assume, I'm not going to be making an ass out of anybody, least of all you or me. And like, if they're not my eggs, at least the other person can be like, oh, you know what? That was my bad. I absolutely see how you would suspect and assume that those were your eggs. Touche, right? Now here again, very, very specific to Cody in general, because they have typed him as double masculine ENTJ, but missing blast, so doubling up on the masculine SE in a savior state, right? Leaps of logic, assumptions, things like that don't come as easily to him, ostensibly, besides the fact that he's 8, right? Like anybody, if you have demon intuition, especially if it's single activated, that piecing togetherness and that like, let me just take a stab at it. Let me take a guess. That muscle's going to be harder for you to use if you haven't worked on it, right? So that's the first thing I would say is like, weigh whether or not this even does this need to be asked, right? Now, how about this? You're in class, right? They use the example of going to the bathroom, right? Obviously, let's say you need to go to the bathroom and you're in the middle of class, right? Step 1, does this need to be said? Okay, so let's talk through this process. Does this need to be said? Well, did the teacher establish a procedure for when you have to go to the bathroom, right? Is there a rule that says always ask permission because you need a hall pass, right? There are some school systems, classes, whatever, where that is not the case, right? some of the looser schools, kids come and go from class. They don't need hall passes. In some, like certainly in colleges, right? A lot of them, they're like, what, fuck, I don't care. Leave a lecture, come for, I don't care. That's on you, right? There are lots of other school system education, whatever, where it's like, no, I don't get to go to the bathroom unless I draw attention to the fact that I have to go to the bathroom. So yes, in that case, it does need to be asked because otherwise you don't get what you want, which is to not piss your pants, right? Does this need to be asked by me? I'm gonna go with yes, because like, if you're relying on Amanda to be like, Miss Ferguson, Raja has to use the like, that's weird. Stop. I'm not even gonna finish that anecdote because it's preposterous, right? And then here's the third one. Does this need to be asked by me right now? How much time is left in class? If there's 3 minutes left in class, don't ask to use the bathroom. You can wait 2 minutes. I promise you can wait 2 minutes. Because if you can't wait 2 minutes, it's because you didn't ask 20 minutes earlier. In most cases, leaving aside actual medical conditions, right? If you're like, no, I gotta go now, you have made it urgent, right? If you had asked 20 minutes earlier, right? And if she had said, yes, finish your quiz first and then you can go, right? Now it's not urgent. You have, and again, this is not even a planning thing, right? That's a like, I'm just in touch with myself thing, right? Like knowing your body and what it's telling you, right? So that's the first thing, right? Does this need to be asked by me right now? If you can get in the habit of just like really quickly running through that when you feel the urge to ask a question for the purposes of just like pinging off of somebody, right? Because there are lots of other cases where it's like, I'm sorry, teacher, I have a question about this. Question 34, I think there is a typo. If there is not a typo, like I don't need you to solve it for me, but like, I just need you to tell me if there's a typo in this question or not. Great. That is very obviously a thing that you don't need to be like, does this need to be asked? Yeah, like just fucking that, fine, right? Don't ask a million times, but like that is an example of a question that has to be asked. You're working with a personal trainer, right? And you were like, okay, here's a good example. So I'm working with my trainer today. We're doing the push day, right? A little chest press. But it was like a little bit of a wonky day, just timing wise. And we ended up doing, usually we do like regular shoulder press, right? On push day. But today he was like, I want you to do like a twisting shoulder press. Cause my shoulder it was fine, but like we worked it during the chest press. So he's like, all right, let's just do a different thing with some lower weight. And he's like, I want you to start here, and I want you to really keep the elbows tight and then press up, right? And do a bunch of these, right? And then you can't see because I'm out of frame, but I'm twisting my hands. So at the top, they're in this position, right? Like a little bunny rabbit or a boxing squirrel. So what I asked him is not in the middle of the set, because that would not be the right time to do it. But at the end of the set, I was like, question for you. What is the mechanical difference between this particular shoulder press and this shoulder press? Like, what are the differences? What should I be feeling when I do one versus the other? That's a really, really important and relevant question to the work that we are doing, right? Because if I'm not clear on what I'm doing, I can't report to him whether or not I'm feeling it the way I should be. And he's like, oh, when you're doing it like this, you're just greater muscle recruitment. It's fundamentally the same process. But you're involving the back muscles a little bit, the delts. Great. So then I know that when I'm doing it, to like be somewhat aware of my delts while I'm doing the exercise, right? Yes, that meets all the criteria. Does this need to be asked by me right now, right? So here's an example where it can get a little trickier. What if it does need to be asked, and it needs to be asked right now, but not by you? Okay. Now we're getting into interesting territory. All right, so let's break it down. When's a time when it's like this needs to be asked right fucking now, and I am not the one to do it? Okay. Now we're talking about tribe dynamics. And now you got to understand, like, what you got to read the room. You just got to read the room. It's an all 4 function ordeal. All 4 functions, all 4 animals, all 4 modalities. It's all coming together when I say read the room, right? Because, look, if you're in a really hierarchical tribe culture, right? So like if you are doing if you're doing a dance class, right? So the dance world is just intensely, like there's an intense hierarchy in the dance world, right? It's nuts. It's part of the reason I left, right? Because I'm like, I can't deal with this fucking tribe bullshit, right? But that's the world. That's the thing. Choir, like choral music, can be similar in that way. Orchestral, right? Anytime you have like the conductor, the choreographer, the creative genius, and you are the ones executing the genius's vision, right? If it's that kind of a thing, what you have to suss out is like, listen, does this need to be asked by me, or will somebody else ask this question, right? Somebody else with a little bit more status in the room, right? Maybe don't ask the choreographer, maybe ask the assistant choreographer, because their job is explicitly to be paid to field dumb questions, right? Read the room, right? How about this? God, I've been in many a rehearsal space where the lead was doing something wrong, and I happen to not be the lead, right? The lead was doing something wrong, and it was affecting me, and I wanted to be like, should he be doing that, right? That's not the question to ask, right? So if you're in a situation like that, where it's like this other person with more status is fucking up, it's like you, person with more status than you, your collective boss, right? If it like tiers like that, right? You're like, I can't ask the boss this person's question, not my place, but it affects me, so I have to say something, right? And now you can go, okay, let me find a different question to ask. So for instance, in that case, you're like, okay, so because you take what the other person is doing as a given, right? So your process is, okay, they are taking an extra beat, right? Where they shouldn't, right? And again, this is can get dicey if you ask it wrong. And the only way to get better at asking it is just to ask it, right? If you're like, okay, you can say, so just to clarify, are we taking the extra beat there? Or, or I guess, again, even that a little snark in it. How do you totally remove the snark from it? Say, quick question. The last couple of times we've been doing it, we've been taking an extra beat. The music does not have the extra beat. I just want to get clarity on which one we're doing. That is a great fucking question, because now you're not calling out your fellow tribe member. You're making it about us. you're putting the onus on you to just understand what is expected of all of us, right? And you're doing it in a way that still points out the problem, which is the lead is taking an extra beat, but you're not putting it on them, right? We've been doing it a certain way. I just want clarity on what the count is. I'm happy to do whatever. And I get that that's a very FTE way approach, but goddamn, is it effective? It is so fucking effective, right? Because what will happen is because you weren't a dick about it, now they're gonna go, oh my god, wait, oh my god, yes, we were taking an extra beat. Yeah, no extra beat. It just goes right into it, right? You've gotten your way. You've solved the problem. You've done so without being an asshole. Nobody's, again, if you ask it with sincerity, and that's sort of the second thing I want to hit on here, you must be genuine with your ask. You must be genuine with your question, because we can smell sarcasm a mile away. And if you're snarky, right? So in that example, right, you're working with, right, you're putting together a piece of music, he's fucking up. And if you again, there's the way to do it. Hey, you know who, how you doing? There's a way to do it that's very clearly bitchy, which is like, yes, I have a question. I'm just a little confused. We've been doing it with an extra beat, but I'm looking at the music and I don't see an extra beat, and I'm just wondering what we're supposed to do. Get the fuck out of my rehearsal studio. Absolutely not. Unacceptable. No. Great questions, just great questions in general. Again, in response to the Dave and Shan video about how TE asks too many questions, this is how to ask a great question, right? Fuck you. Get out of my rehearsal studio. I do not want your attitude in here. You can come back. You can come back after the break. But we're doing work right now, and we do not need your attitude. Goodbye. That's how I'd handle it, right? The benefits of it, people don't run away from you. But if you are confused about this video, watch the one in class first, especially if you're just jumping in the middle, which, hello and welcome. This is probably another 10, 15 minutes, and then you can go back and either watch the Dave and Shan video that they just posted today, or start from the beginning of this video and work your way forward. Okay. Right. So like, don't be an asshole about it. Right. I'll fucking kick you out. That's a really great way to lose friends. Right. Is if you're just an asshole about it. So that's right. But the sincerity part is like, hey, trainer person, I'm not asking this because I have this idle curiosity about it. This is directly relevant, and I genuinely want and need to know the answer to this very specific question that you are the only person who can answer this at this particular moment, right? And, you know, that's right. But again, like, I'm paying that person and it's a whole thing and it's totally fine regardless. But even then, part of why my trainer and I have the relationship that we do and why we're able to get so much goddamn work done in a given session is because I'm running through the scenarios and I'm like, okay, right, what's the best question to ask right now? Okay, yep, this is it. I gotta ask this. And if you do that work and if you get really practiced at doing that work, you can kind of ask as many questions as you want because you're asking fewer questions, but everything that fucking comes out of your mouth is gold. People will be like, okay, if Raj has got a question, it's going to be a good one, right? That's the response you want. Here's another example. I'm bringing up a lot of theater examples just because that's where like the tribe dynamic disparity is the highest. So it can really illustrate like the stakes of asking a dumb question, right? So I was doing a show. This was now 5 years ago. We're doing a show. We've been rehearsing in like a rehearsal space, like you do, because that's what it's fucking called, a rehearsal space. And then we move into the theater, and we're doing it with sound and tech and all the things. And we don't have body mics on, but there are 3 we're called shotgun mics. They're these longer mics at the front of the stage, pointed at us, right? And we were working with them and singing through, and they're talking through the tech. And then whether or not this should have been me or not was irrelevant. It had to be asked by me because I'm the only one who thought to ask it, right? This is not the kind of question that somebody else could have potentially come up with, right? What I asked was, because we aren't mic'd, nobody else is going to ask that question. I just knew, like, they're just not. Not all of them are Savior NF to hell, and very, very few of them have ST play in their function stack. I'm the only one who can think of that and ask that question in that moment. And the choreographer was like, that's a really good question. I'm going to say for this next run through, if you have a solo cheat out or a solo line cheat out, if you're just singing in the ensemble, don't worry about it. But I'm going to keep an eye on that for the next run through, and I will let you know if that changes, right? Now, all of a sudden, she fucking loves me asking a question because they're like, oh shit, he's asking questions that nobody else will ask. Which brings me to my third point. The specificity of your question counts. It counts so much. And this is where having consume above play can be extraordinarily useful. Because here's the thing. If you have consume above play, you're going to come in having already done the work of like you're asking the 7th layer of the question, right? You are really getting to the heart of the matter in an incredibly specific NI or SI way. And you can go, there's the linchpin. That's the linchpin. And then you pull out the linchpin, and then you're like, oh, fuck, that was a great question. That is clearly a weak spot that we need to address, right? Because it affects so many other things, right? Whether it's an SE way or an NE way, you have done the, like, again, specifically the consume sleep above play. Mwah! I love it. Because now you're like, you're coming in and, okay, so how about this? You're in a work situation, right? And let's say, you're pinch hitting for sales, you're doing whatever, and there's a question that comes up that you have to ask your boss about. In your ask, signal that you tried to figure it out yourself and couldn't. The reason for that can be fucking whatever, right? Questions, and to be able to like coach your employees and your direct reports to ask continually better questions. In fact, one of my direct reports was like one of my favorite people I worked with. She never asked the same question twice. Never once did she ask the same question twice. Didn't happen, right? And she got better and better and better at asking questions and when she asked me a question, she would come into my office and she'd be like, all right, I got a question about the Howard program. And I'm like, oh boy. All right. How's Rachel doing? That's not her real name, by the way. All right. Oh, Rachel Howard. Oh boy. All right. What's she got on the docket for today? And she's like, all right, look, I did this and this and this. I know that you said this. However, I just got this report from the tutor and I've never been in this like I've never been the middleman between the tutor and the parent before, and I'm not sure how to navigate this. And I'm like, you know what? That's a legitimately good question, because this is above both of our pay grades, because Rachel Howard is an incredibly important client who needs to be treated with more kid gloves than usual. That's a fantastic question. I'm going to say ask our collective boss. Or I can add, like, however you want to do it. But you are right that is a question that you cannot answer yourself. Let's see if I can get out of the sun. A little off-centered, but okay. Right? And you're like, oh, okay, yes. And again, over time, she started to figure out, we both started to figure out, how she can not ask the same question twice. And here's the thing. If you do have to ask the same question twice, acknowledge, not explicitly, but tonally, that you're asking a dumb question. If you're like, I feel like I should be able to figure this out, but I have to ask it anyway because I'm in moron mode today. Forgive me. These are my eggs, right? Right. And again, just rhetorically, you can throw that in, right? Rather than, are these my eggs? Ask with the assumption that you know what the answer is. If it's just fucking eat the eggs, right? Like nobody cares. But if it's like, let's say it's milk in the company refrigerator, nobody's name is on it, the office refrigerator. And you walk around, you're like, is this like communal milk? Is this somebody's milk? Because this is like really fancy fucking almond milk that I would love to use for my coffee, but like I don't want to use somebody else's shit, right? That's a really good question, right? Does this need to be asked? Yes, because you do not know the answer and you cannot figure it out for yourself, right? Because there's no name on it. Does this need to be asked by me? Yes, because you are the one who wants to put the milk in your coffee. Does this need to be asked by me right now? Yes, it does, because I have shit to do, but I want this milk in my coffee, so I need the answer to it, pretty quickly, right? That's a fantastic question to ask. And if you're like, I don't have the answer, all right, I get you. Look, I don't see a name. I asked somebody, they don't know. Like, I did the consume, I did the sleep, I did the play. Like, I've covered my bait. I don't know what the fuck you want from me. I'm just going to use the fucking milk, right? And screw you, tribe member, for not writing your name on your shit, right? Perfectly acceptable. Perfectly acceptable. For this last little bit, I want to talk about the mentory component, right? How do you ask questions of value when you are not, when you benefit, right? So I love what Dave said in his video, set a parameter for yourself. So for me, I basically get one question per event, right? So if it's, hey, I need a 500-word little mini episode for this, give me a 500-word report on XYZ, right? On the thing. I get one question, right? Again, assuming it's a thing that I know how to do and I'm qualified, or whatever. And it isn't I'm sorry, you want me to do what? That's not even close to my job, right? Assuming it's not that, assuming it's we're all being reasonable fucking adults here, right? But if they're I need 500 words about this topic, whatever, right? If that's just what they say. My one question is, great, when do you need it by? Right? Because that will inform the rest of the process, right? And assuming their answer isn't, can you just drop what you're doing and get it to me in 15 minutes? Right? Okay, fine, that's a problem. But if they say, oh yeah, this is not urgent, end of the week is fine. Great, cool, it'll be done. And then as I start working on it, if I have questions, then I can ask another question that is different. That's like, hey, now that I have gathered more data and consume, sleep, processed this stuff, there's a hole right here. That's like, I know you want me to talk about guitars, but like, I really feel like this person doesn't care about guitars. And I feel like that analogy is going to be like kind of off the map, like maybe stick to computers, right? Relevant question, right? Why is that a relevant, important question? Because you now have new information that informs the given circumstances, right? So they, this is just like honestly, conversation 101, but specifically like an acting 101. God, I would love to just not be totally in the sun. Good Lord. All right, let's try this. Okay, right. It's just like a communication 101 sort of thing of like, listen, like respond to the last thing the other person said. If you're able to, like, they say, do the thing. It's like, when do you need it by? Can you get it to me by the end of the day so I can look over it because the meeting's tomorrow morning? Great. Right. And again, let's assume that the people aren't being dicks and just like, I don't know. Tomorrow, a week, I don't care. Right. No, fuck that. Right. Reasonable people asking for reasonable things. You start to work on and you're like, boss, I'm hitting a snag. Right. The way every mentor, right, if you can come to them, right? So it's not that you're asking a question. Sometimes you may have to literally ask a question, right? If it's, look, what is a guitar? I genuinely don't know what a guitar is. I have Googled guitar, and I do not know what a guitar is. I just don't know. Then they'll be like, oh, cool. Yeah. No. It's a new thing. It's this thing. It's got 6 strings. It's made out of like wood, usually different kinds of strings. But it's a musical instrument, kind of like a cello or a violin. Cool. That's a dumb example, but like, you know what I mean, right? Sometimes you literally have to ask a question, right? If there's a jargon you don't know, whatever, right? Ideally, you want to ask your question in this sort of setting in the form of a solution, right? So it's like, okay, I know you said this. I took my best stab at it. I think this is what you want, but I'm going to be honest, I didn't feel great about it. It felt a little more hippy-dippy than I know we like to go. What do you think? Right? Now you're giving them something to work with, as opposed to, what's the tone for this? Like, should we go hippy-dippy? Should we go, right? And again, now you're putting thought, now you're draining their energy, having to think of a response to your question of like, oh, fuck, I don't know. Now they have to think, and it's a whole thing, right? Whereas if you say, here's what I put together. I have completed the assignment as asked, right? I'm a good worker. I know what my job is. I feel like I executed the job well. Now that I've finished this, looking over it, I'm not loving how hippy-dippy this feels. What's your take on it? And now they have a frame of reference. They read it and they go, yeah. No, I see what you mean. I actually don't hate most of it. That's this little bit right here, that's got to go. That's too much. Give me something a little bit more concrete for that. But actually for the other stuff, I don't hate it. I feel I can definitely pitch this and sell this. And you know what? For these clients, they're a little more hippie woo-woo. So I think that a hippie woo-woo approach is not the end of the world. Right? Great. And now you have signaled your value in the question asking realm, because you're coming to it from, I did this work. I tried to answer it myself. I'm not coming to you empty handed with tell me how to do it. It's here's what I did. I'm not totally thrilled with it. And I need your notes on this. Right. All of this is to say, because we're now at the 40-minute mark, all of this is to say, asking good questions takes practice. But it really does come down to the 3 things that Craig Ferguson taught us. Does this need to be asked by me right now? And if you can signal that if you can bring that emotional energy into the questions you ask, nobody's probably going to be mad about it because you've signaled that you've done the work, right? And even if it's like I'm asking a friend about a political issue or a personal question or whatever, like if you can come into that and build that into the foundation of your relationship kind of from day one, if you can have that as the default, that will give you leeway to ask slightly dumber questions, right? It'll give you leeway and freedom to go, hey, I got a quick question for you, boom, 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 because the other person knows, A, this person's going to be quick about it. They're not going to take my time. Even if they if it's like, this is a dumb question they could figure out for themselves, they know, like, you know what? I get that asking me is a shortcut and time is of the essence. So yeah, if time is, you know what, time must be of the essence for this person, I'm happy to answer it once in a while, right? So the big takeaway from Shave's video and from this video, be careful of asking questions just to ping off of somebody, right? Because now you are taking more than you are adding, right? But if you're asking a question because it's like, hey, I'm working on a thing, I'm particularly interested in your take on this. So like I have friends who are like voice teachers, right? So if I have like a pedagogy question, like a vocal, so one of my good friends who's a voice teacher works with male voices a lot, right? I'm coming to her and be like, hey, I have a really specific question about male vocal pedagogy during puberty. You are not only the only person I know to ask this, you're the only source that I know of that exists who can answer this specific question to the level that I need it answered, right? And now they feel really good because you've asked them a question that they're like, oh my God, somebody wants to know this weird thing that only I care about? Fucking sign me up. Right? That's all I got for today. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Be sure to like and comment and subscribe. And tell me about a time that you asked a question and it didn't go super well for you. And looking back after having watched this video, be like, I see where I fucked up. You know what? It was the right question to ask and it was the right time, but I should not have been the person to ask it or whatever it is. All right. That's all I got for today. Have a wonderful Thursday and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.